Yesterday, we glued actual textures into our sketchbook, and today we are going to draw implied texture in our sketchbook. So first, we are going to start with a hair texture, and we would like to create the illusion that our creature is round. So we are going to have more hair around the edges and less down the center. You're going to start by being loose with your mark making. Start from the center and work your way out. And you're going to be patient and random with your marks. Some are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. And you're going to go ahead and fill in your creature with lots of different fur. And eventually it's going to turn into a texture that looks like hair. If you finish early and you're waiting to move on, go ahead and add some textures to the word implied. Just make up your own textures if you're waiting for others to finish. The next texture we are going to do is a snake scale texture. Now the key to making this texture look realistic is having the scales touch each other. If you have them spaced too far apart, it looks a little odd. So have those scales touch each other. Create a scallop with your pen. Some of you might want to create more individualized scales, and that's okay too. Like, create each scale individually instead of having them all connected, and that's okay too, just as long as they're fairly close together. Now, if you would like to create the illusion that one side is heavier, then go ahead and darken up the edge with your pen by tracing over the scales. Kind of gives the snake a little bit of depth. The next texture will be a cactus texture, and you begin by adding vertical lines. And it's a cactus, it's an organic plant, so your lines are not going to be perfectly straight. You're going to go down, follow the cactus, Some might be closer together, some might be further away. And then once you have your vertical lines, you're going to add some hatching lines to add some value to your cactus. You could even do some cross hatching if you want to go darker. I'm going to add some hatching lines. I'm not going to go all the way up. And then some finishing touches. Finish with some spikes. You can even draw some cactus flowers if you want to get really creative with it. To get a really light line with my pen, I'm barely touching the paper with my pen. And if I want a darker line, I press the paper hard with my pen. The next texture is going to be a woven texture, a burlap. We are going to mimic this texture right here in this section. So notice we capture the gaps by darkening those in. Notice the lines are not straight, as you see here with the actual woven texture. So there we go. We're going to first start with vertical lines. You can start with horizontal lines. I'm not going to stay within this shape I have here. I'm holding my pencil parallel to the paper. I'm wiggling my pen so my lines are not quite straight. Some are closer together, some are further apart. You can see some marks I'm going up and making the marks, some I'm going down and making the marks. That's just what I do to get a line that's not quite straight. And then we're going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to wiggle my line a little bit more. I'm going to add a few more vertical lines after the fact. Wiggle them. And then choose some areas that you want to darken to represent those gaps in the woven texture. The next texture we're going to do is a brick texture. Now you can decide if you want your bricks to line up like you see here, or if you want them to be mismatched. It's up to you. And then you're going to add some value to the bricks with some hatching lines. I'm touching my paper very lightly with my pen to get a very thin line. Start with hatching, add a little cross hatching, and then I'm even adding some stippling, some dots. And I'm gonna go beyond those hatching ones. Maybe outline to get a darker, go up the side a little bit. You can have some lines extending above. So again, I'm touching my paper very light, hatching, cross hatching, a little bit of stippling dots, and going up the side ever so slightly. The next texture we're going to do is a wood texture. You're going to start by creating a teardrop shape. So you start by making like a moon shape, and then make one end bigger, one end smaller. It's kind of a tricky shape to make. You might want to practice first or draw it with pencil. Start with a few teardrop shapes. And then you're going to add the wood grain. So you're going to go around your teardrops however you want and add lines that run across your paper. The closer the lines are together, the more realistic it's going to look. And my lines aren't very close right now, but I'll go in and add closer lines. You can always go in and add lines, but you can't take them away, which is the hard thing about pen and ink. I'm going to go in here and add some more lines. This is a really tricky one. Then you can even go in and add some more lines within your teardrop shape. And then once you have quite a few lines, then go in and choose certain lines to make bold. Because with wood, some grains are thick and some grains are thin. This added detail is really going to make your wood look realistic. Some of these I'm not even quite sure which lines I'm following. And that's okay. It's random like wood. Wood is very random. And then you might want to go in and outline the overall shape. And the final texture is a stone texture. You're going to start by drawing stone shapes. Different sizes. And then once you have the stones in there, you're going to start by doing the background, hatching and cross-hatching. You want the background to be fairly dark. Go around each stone. If you want an area to be darker, add cross-hatching. If you want it to be lighter, just leave the hatching. Once you have the background in there pretty good, you can go in and start adding some hatching lines to the rock. There's a few different ways you can do it. You can just do hatching lines to the rock and maybe some stippling. Or you can do hatching and cross-hatching and stippling, and then go ahead and outline that rock so it's darker. There's a defined edge between the rock and the background. Maybe darken up that background a little bit. Or you could just do stippling to the rocks. And I like to keep the value on one side of the rock, the main value. Like there's a shadow there. Maybe add some hatching lines. You can get creative with it. Maybe do a few different kinds of rocks and see which one you like the best. All right, and there you go. That's it. Thanks for watching.